How do our food choices affect climate change? Industrialized agriculture contributes to 14% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. The transportation of food from all over the globe only adds to that number. 40% of the food produced in America is wasted. Without composting, that food ends up in landfills and produces methane, a greenhouse gas 20 times more potent than carbon dioxide. How should we get our food from the field to the table? What is the recipe for a sustainable food system, and how do we build one locally? To help answer those questions, I invited 5 stakeholders in the Iowa City Food Web to dinner and discussion. Katie Meyer owns the Trumpet Blossom Cafe, a vegan restaurant in downtown Iowa City. Bob Anderlich is the director of a food rescue organization, Table to Table. Grant Schultz is the owner of Versaland Farms. Fred Meyer is the director of Backyard Abundance, an organization that builds resilient landscapes, providing food and habitat. And my 5th guest has not shown up yet. I aimed to serve as many local, in-season, and organic vegetables as I could, and it was still possible during December in Iowa. The first course represented growth. Kale and spinach salad with a cranberry garlic dressing and roasted almonds. So I asked, how did my guests grow into their current roles?
Well, it's not real exciting. I answered a want ad to start with. Once I found out what Table to Table's role was in the community was with keeping good food from going to waste, I mean, it's absolutely something that I totally believe in and can really get enthusiastic about.
And I realized that we've got this really great soil in Iowa, but we're not really growing food anymore. We're just growing commodities for various industrial processes. So I thought, why not make a genuine, honest effort to grow food humans actually eat at scale?
We cannot really understand how to improve the health of our environment unless we can actually do it in our own landscapes. What better way to connect with your landscape than growing food? It just doesn't get any more local.
And I feel like having a vegan restaurant is a fun way to show people who maybe aren't used to seeing strictly plant-based food, you know, what's out there and what's right here and what's possible.
The main course represented soil. Roasted vegetables on a black rice and quinoa bed with sauteed mushrooms and onions.
In our standpoint, we look at 1 in 5 Iowans are food insecure. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't have adequate food, but sometimes adequate to nutritional food. So, you know, they might be getting food, but it's not having the macronutrients and the micronutrients that they need.
We have some of the best soil on the planet, so it seems, sad to just grow tons and tons of corn. I guess I just want to make people aware of all of the possibilities that our land, like that we have right here and that we have in our backyard. You know, you can grow almost anything.
Yet, there are many still struggling to put nutritious food on the table. Food access is a major issue surrounding those that are food insecure. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, provides aid to nearly 13% of Iowans without the means to buy ample food for themselves or their families.
People purchase items with SNAP benefits the same way people that purchase items that don't have SNAP benefits. So if they have the ability to buy those foods, they'll buy those foods. When we rescue food in our program, and we take to places like the Crisis Center, it'll oftentimes there'll be a little bit of a learning curve. Like when we first started taking organic things to the Crisis Center, a lot of the patrons are going like, that's organic, you know, that's that stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. But once they tried it, they realized that there's a whole other dimension to the flavor and the healthiness of it and how much better they felt when they consumed it, to where they started looking for that when they come to the Crisis Center. Hey, we got the organic milk, hey, we got those vegetables.
One of the goals that I have is to make food free. That would put all of us out of business, right? But that's actually, we can find something else to do. We are the only critter on the whole planet that has to go to a certain place at a certain time with a certain amount of money to eat. We're the only organism on the planet that does that. And if we can change, the more we change that one rule, I think a lot of things will cascade, and a lot of the problems that we have in our society, those problems just start kind of evaporating. And they don't become problems anymore.
Fred's goal is to help us see and eat the food growing all around us. Edible landscapes, like this one in Weatherby Park, provide free food for anyone that wants to eat it. But Fred says people hesitate to pick food from public parks. He says they think the food belongs to someone, that they need permission. I believe this stems from a loss of community and a loss of connection with our natural environment. The third course wasn't really a course at all. It was the food scraps that were produced during the preparation of the dinner. So, what should we do with them?
At the restaurant, we save all of our food waste, even from customers' plates, if they don't finish something. And then we have a local farmer who comes and picks up the compost once or twice a week and actually feeds it, just dumps it on the ground at her farm, and her chickens eat it.
I love Scott Kempe saying is feed the food, and he's meaning feed the food in the soil. I love that saying, because it implies that the soil is alive.
So when I look at this, I see a resource, not something that, compost in most municipalities is it's energy intensive, where they're stirring it, you're burning diesel fuel to create all these things. And that's just an inert resource. If you just sprinkle it on the ground, it goes back to soil, right? Yeah. No energy involved, just sunlight and light.
I don't look at that the same anymore.
Should we redefine how we talk about food waste? Is it waste at all?
There's a difference between food waste in terms of where is it being wasted at in the process. Is it being wasted because it can't be moved efficiently from the field to the market? Is it being wasted in the post-marketing aspect of it, which is what we deal with table to table? Or is it being wasted after it goes to a home and you're maybe throwing something away that you could still use? Essentially 40% of the food in the United States goes to waste, somewhere along that line. In the United States, a lot of that is either food that's left in the field because it's not pretty enough. One thing that was just spoken about at a conference in Nashville was how some of the romaine producers would leave their romaine lettuce in the fields because they were only picking the ones that would fit into the two to a bag sack. And for them, it wasn't worthwhile, changing around their packaging. So it was more cost effective for them to leave it in the field. And, that's just nuts to my mind. I mean, it's just crazy. But according to their economic priorities, it made absolute sense.
I intentionally left meat off the menu. Industrialized livestock production consumes vast amounts of energy and contributes to 20% of the methane emissions in the United States. Plus, it takes a lot of energy to make a steak. For example, to produce just 1 pound of beef, that cow must consume 7 pounds of feed. Land that is being used to grow feed for cows could be used to grow food for humans directly. Grant, however, sees animals as a part of the sustainable food system.
I think that it's a misnomer to think that livestock production is inherently unsustainable. I think that veganic eating in many ways is probably just as energy intensive, if not more so. I don't think that feedlot, feeding of animals is the right way to go, but I do think that if you're raising animals on pasture and they're enjoying the sunlight and having a good life and eating things like this, that's great. No diesel fuel involved, right?
Want some wheatgrass pigs?
So I would rather feed compost scraps to pigs and eat the pigs.
There are different reasons that people choose a vegan diet. I would definitely say that there are sustainable ways of doing it. It's just like with everything else we were talking about, like how do you get people to make that change?
For dessert, I wanted to give the gift of gardening, but that isn't soil. It's a chocolate beet cupcake topped with edible flowers and mint leaves. You may be wondering, what's up with that empty seat? Who was it that never showed up for dinner? The empty seat symbolizes all those left out of the conversation on sustainable food systems. Those without access, or even those without an invitation. How do we as a community come together to make sure that there are no empty seats at the table?
You throw a party first, and then sprinkle in a little bit of your mission on the side.
Okay.
And that's what I'm learning to try and do with Backyard Abundance events.
It was an art event in St. Paul this past summer, where they put together a half-mile long table in the middle of the neighborhood and invited everyone in the neighborhood to come eat.
Yeah.
And in that case, it was providing food access to those of varying cultures, varying backgrounds, varying interests in eating healthy or unhealthy. But the big thing about the success of it was that it was integrated, I think.
These big missions would help us start learning how to work together a little bit better and join hands and say, we're not going to change our mission, we're not going to tremendously change our actions, but we're all going to kind of start moving in generally the same direction for a year or two.
But coming together from all these different perspectives so we kind of get a better idea of what the problem is or what part of the problem can we work together to solve, because there are so many facets to it. But the main thing is getting people together and having the discussions.
Where do you sit?